In the beginning of this career, more than a decade ago, there was always this like art versus math,
Yeah.
but I think that people forget oftentimes that the greatest artists are based in math. Any of the Renaissance paintings are symmetrical. Like, if you look at any music is math. So the concept that one is versus the other is something that doesn't exist. I think that, and that's also why I think being an analyst requires creativity.
Yeah.
Like if you're a person who's looking at data all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
it's not enough to know statistics. It's not enough to
Yeah.
know ML. You have to understand culture,
Yeah.
behavior,
Yeah.
and really like listen to what the data is telling you, like asking why people are behaving in that way.
Yeah.
And there
And
is no,
I love
yeah,
that you just said that. I mean, things are evolving so quickly. You go from one day we're all in person to the next day we're all in a pandemic. The evolution also of all the tools, the TikTok now is a relatively, new tool. So how are we looking at our data and our and analytics based on this cultural framework, or what's going on and where are people going? What are their behaviors? What behavioral economics? What makes someone cross the line?
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about like over the course of 14-year career in customer analytics,
Mhm.
compared to, say, accounting.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much the people in my industry have to reteach themselves, reimagine. Like, when I started, it was like web trends, core metrics, Adobe, Google Analytics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's basically only two. But at
Yeah.
that time when I
But
started,
they
there were
feel so
maybe,
binary, those analytics, right?
sure, but I mean, you were starting out with 100 marketing technologies, and now there are 10,000.
Yes.
So,
Right.
thinking about how, all of these new wonderful innovations about how to get a customer closer to a brand or a product, or give them the opportunity to create their own content. Like it's just changing user expectations or people's behaviors for how they expect brands to behave.
Mhm.
That it's my job to constantly tell them, like, this is how to be authentic, to
Yeah.
like read the tea leaves in the data and teach brands how to be authentic with their customers who are changing every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, even their customers, not to mention what their customers need and what the industry and the tools that they can use are. So I'm so
Yeah.
excited for this conversation because there's so many parts of who you are. We just touched on a couple beautiful pieces. And what I want to just also underscore, you were talking about when you get into your flow. And for me, when I hear you talking about how you show up almost in joy, for every interaction sounds joyful to me. And that's what I've experienced with you, Mia, is when you draw people in, your joy, your excitement about what you're doing, but also how you interface with people it's such a gift. It's such I mean, whatever you're doing to get yourself into that, it's infectious. You draw people in. And because you drew us in with your vision of your brilliance and how you are as a leader, we invested in Clickvoyant and invested in you as a leader. Let's be clear. So what's so exciting for me is to really sort of let's maybe first dive in talking about the company and your vision for your company. So tell us what Clickvoyant is and how does it help companies that you're talking.
Sure. Well, to talk first about, to tell you about what ClickVoyant is, we first have to talk about like what is going on in data analytics in general.
Okay.
And, like over the course of, a decade long career, I've been building analytics programs for Intel, Toyota, like these Fortune 500 companies. And in the meanwhile, when you're working at an agency, you participate in lots of pitches for really great products. In that time, so many businesses that, were like Series D and Series A to D funded were coming to the agency looking for support in their go-to-market strategies, and oftentimes cutting analytics out of scope of work.
Uh,
And the reason for that is, the analysts are in such short supply that our billable rate is very high, sometimes up to $300 an hour. So they just
yeah.
can't afford it. And in the end, there are many companies that I would have liked to work on. And at some point in my career, I just basically quit the advertising gig. I quit like, huge and critical mass, like all these Omnicom and Publicis companies to basically work for, 80% pay cut in the Philippines. I wanted to do something good with my data skills. Things were happening, there was the election. I think people will know which one I'm talking about. There were, just a lot of other opportunities that I, as a humanist, as a person who was involved in, like, when I was growing up in Chicago, like worked on Barack Obama's campaigns as a senator. Society, culture, it's important to me. So I quit. I got an opportunity to work in the Philippines for a news organization that was the only independent news organization in the whole country. And there, most of them are either treating the government with kid gloves or straight out bought.
Yeah.
That was the company that we raised advertising dollars for, just and won the Google News Initiative for. So I was using data for good, like using it to not optimize, for advertising dollars. If you go to a publisher that optimizes for ads, it because it's got like pop-ups and things and
Yeah,
video, and you got to
right.
close out to try to read the damn article. But that lesson, like, my life was fulfilled
Yes.
during that time.
Mhm.
I was using data to support something that was promoting civic engagement versus selling jeans or microchips. It felt good. But in addition, in 2021, in December, the CEO of that company who invited me, she won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And I mean, we were building the beginnings of Clickvoyant at that time with the intention to say, why should anybody take an 80% pay cut to support great businesses like this? Connected businesses, sustainable businesses, or even small business. Why, or even a small enterprise for that matter, who also can't afford an analyst. Why should they go without? Like,
Yes.
if analysis and data can fuel a company who is struggling to fight a government, struggling to get clawback revenue from Facebook and Google, if they can do it with their data, then everybody should be able to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the story of Clickvoyant is really Kate and I's attempt to close the gap and make this advanced analysis affordable. So,
Yeah. It's
that was
fantastic. Oh, I mean, to me, this is like kid in the candy shop time. I mean, I hate inefficiency. So the more efficient you can be with your marketing spend and your time, and get to the point. Tell me the ultimate information I'm supposed to be gleaning from this data, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. And so let me actually answer the final question that you
Yeah,
first
yeah,
asked me, which is,
yeah,
what is it?
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
like, all of that was like was it just pretty much like a big preamble to, like, we built the product, which is a SaaS that automates the analyst process. What you would typically do is hire a person, that person would then pull the data out of your systems, Facebook, TikTok, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, put it all in place, analyze it, maybe put it in another data lake, analyze it there, and then present to you, the stakeholder, CEO, CMO, a PowerPoint presentation of all the findings, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. So our software actually does that whole last mile delivery, connecting to all this data and spitting out that PowerPoint presentation at the end with speaker notes, basically an entire script for how to present that. So, even you, Julie Castro Abrams, you could go in and present an analytics, data science backed presentation of customer behavior and what to do next to grow money.
Yeah. So who are your target customers? Who needs you the most these days, do you think?
Well, given the economic downturn, I think that, I
Everybody.
mean, everybody, I mean,